Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
What a save by Fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rui Diaz through the middle to crown it for Seattle!
The Sounders rule the region!
Seattle Sounders is Gunbillion!
This feels fucking awesome.
And Portland can't say shit.
Nice work on your little yacht thing.
Ooch of a gooch! All creatures great and small!
You know, what was the thought process in terms of who you decided to use and who you didn't?
Ever since Sounder at Heart wrote a commentary that we didn't take Cup seriously.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. It is Friday. We are back here at Long Acres in Renton. I'm joined by Niko Moreno and Tim Foss, who I think is probably going to be joining us on more of these Friday What We Learned This Week episodes. So welcome, Tim.
Thanks. Condolences to everybody who's going to hear me more, but I'm excited to be around.
So let's start with the game that we just witnessed against the Galaxy. I don't know if it was it was actually kind of a masterclass. Like I was going to say, it wasn't quite as resounding of a win as they have had in some of these other games, but really, you ticks all the boxes. I mean, the Sounders controlled that game, even though they only had 40% possession. I never really felt like the Galaxy were on top of them. They had a couple decent chances that Andrew Thomas had to make good saves on. But once the Sounders, they jumped on the Galaxy. Those first 10 minutes were exactly how the Sounders wanted it to play out. Almost right away, they get a great chance that Osaze de Rosario can't quite finish. But then they are right back in it. Jesus Ferreira and Osaze de Rosario working together very well. And then Pedro de la Vega finishes a much more difficult chance than I think it maybe looked like at first. Niko, what did you make of the way the Sounders started that game?
First of all, thank you for everybody for listening. It's always a pleasure to have you, Tim, of course. In terms of the game, I was impressed with the tempo that Seattle was able to not just generate, but control throughout that first 45 minutes. I thought that Pedro de la Vega was outstanding in his game, the way that he used space, the way that he created width, the way that he broke lines with possession, the way that he was beating guys 1v1. I just thought that he was the tempo setter. And that, to me, is something that I have said consistently that this team needed, that game breaker mentality. Mm-hmm. And that's what he showed you. And this is when you need your young DP and the guy that essentially probably the only guy that you could look at this roster and say who can do these things to show up. So to me, that was phenomenal. Not to mention the fact that defensively, I thought that he was on point as well. Yeah. His pressing, his tracking back, absolutely everything that Pedro was doing was phenomenal. I would add one more thing, and I just thought that Seattle was just very good in possession, very purposeful. They were switching the point of attack very effectively. I just thought, like you said, it was a very dominant performance, consistently of a team that it's not easy for a club to beat a team back to back. And a team that, I heard and saw a lot of comments that, well, the Galaxy are this awful team, but they were getting better. And they're a talented squad. Yeah. I mean, these are not slobs in that roster. Look
Other
at
than
the
Miguel
talent
Berry.
level. Yeah, Miguel Berry. And even Miguel Berry, has some sort of, we can look at a bunch of rosters that Miguel Berry might be able to start. But all I'm saying is that you still have to give credit to this Sounders team for ultimately taking out of any effect of that offense, because they did that well. I thought Guillermo Gomez-Andrade was outstanding helping out in that department. So just credit to a very complete game by the Sounders.
I'm glad you mentioned Pedro's defensive contributions because I think, he's an attacking designated player. His offense and what he contributes in the final third is always going to be the main focus. But he was giving Gabriel Peck absolute hell all night.
Yeah.
Like that Sudamerica fight happening on that wing was phenomenal to watch because he, I don't even know how many of the instances really are going to, end up on a score sheet. But there were so many times where, he just all of a sudden is, shoulder to shoulder and then slips in between Peck and the ball, and all of a sudden the Sounders are going the other way. The way he was coming back to contribute, he really was emblematic of that whole performance. I think one other thing that in the moment Andrew Thomas's saves looked good, and in review after the fact they were great. I think Osaze de Rosario's misses feel really bad in the moment, but looking back, Micic or however you pronounce his name, made good saves on a bunch of those.
Especially the second one, I thought for sure that was I think he makes it a little easy on Micevic on the first one, the one that was in the 4th or 5th minute. But other than that, I thought Micevic made some really good saves. And the play that really stands out to me that was maybe emblematic of Pedro and Osaze's day really was that second chance that Osaze ends up with, where they play it, where Jesus plays it forward to De La Vega. He gets it somewhere near midfield, and the way he just both controls the ball and pushes it forward, and the run that Osaze makes, it's a 50-yard run behind the play to be the first to get the ball that's it looks like it's going to be either him or Pedro that gets it, but he gets it and he's clean on goal, and there's a good save, but it just showed to me the way that these guys were working. And it is fun. I think I mentioned this before, but it's just very funny to me that when Gabriel Peck and Pedro de la Vega were signed right around the same time, and not exactly the same amount of money. Peck was a more expensive player, he had more experience, but it was an easy comparison. And last year it was God, these players could not be farther apart. And you go now, and I mean, honestly, right now, I might rather have Pedro de la Vega. He's a more complete player. We saw how good Peck can be, and he was he was a borderline MVP candidate last year. But Pedro de la Vega is just so perfect for the way that Brian wants to play. He's always willing to press. He's, and I don't know, maybe he has to have some of his pizzazz, his flair reined in at times, but he has become this player that fits the way that Brian wants to play so well, and he is an X factor. And I don't know, it's just, it's funny. You think even 2 or 3 months ago, you tell me the Sounders only have one of their designated players available. They're down to their third striker. They're going to be playing Messi in a final. What do you like of their chances? And to be I like the chances just fine.
Yeah, look, it's impressive, right? I mean, and it's been all year long, right? Mm-hmm. They've been able to makeshift guys into different positions for anybody who had doubts and I'm going to go ahead and say it, shitted on the Ferreira move. Ferreira has been so versatile and so important in that area and those aspects because he looked great.
He looked great.
He looked great.
He
his
loves
connectivity.
playing the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Maybe that's what it is. But his connectivity, the way he was finding Usase in the half spaces, I mean, just everything about his game was so great. I mean, it feels like all of these players are drumming at the same beat, and it doesn't matter who's coming in, who's coming out, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I did want to talk a little bit about Usase, because to me, at first glance, I thought that he had an okay game. Then I've watched it 2 other times after that, and I feel a lot better about that performance. And I said he probably had a good performance. Maybe there were some parts of his game in his passing that I thought could have been a little bit sharper. Of course, the 2 misses that are brand and obvious. But it also takes a different type of player to have 2 misses in the fashion that he did, and then have the confidence,
the audacity
to flip the ball over your body, find it in space, bring it down, and yes, some very naive defending from the LA
but very
Galaxy
experienced
players.
2 Premier League center backs. It wasn't like he was like busting on some academy kids.
No, 100%. But the defending was poor.
It was poor, but I'm just saying.
You know, I'm just saying. He bullied his way through, found the ball and put it away. And just to conclude my point, I was more impressed about. I'm a guy that looks a lot on body language, and the way he celebrated that goal. It's almost as if he had forgotten completely that he got 2 other misses. Sometimes guys feel like, oh, they'll shake it off. You've seen Ferreira do it, right? Shake it off, or like, oh man, I'm so glad. But he wasn't.
No,
he goes straight into the zombie Osase. I love it. I think that it talks about him. He has a striker mentality.
Yeah.
And that goldfish mentality where you just forget about it and you keep on going. And I thought that was important for me.
I think going back to something that you noticed, Jeremiah, when he first started popping up with goals for the Sounders, that like this is not a guy who in any way at any time looks like he's just getting his first real shot with a top division team. Like in every moment, he does not look like he wears the weight of misses or mistakes. Like he looks like he knows that next opportunity, he's going to be in the right position and he's going to do the things that he needs to do to get that opportunity, and he's going to score that one. And like, I think we also this game really was one of the first times where I think, you know, Ryan was talking after training today about like, he's quicker than people think. He's got all of these pieces and tools, and watching him in this one, like, you were really seeing him put those things together. There were quite a few runs where when the ball first gets played, you think, oh, there's no way that's the defender's got that. And then Osase gets there and beats the man on the dribble. Like to your point, his play setting up the shot that turns into that De La Vega goal.
A lot of confidence there.
A lot of confidence. The reading of the way the defenders were reading him to set himself up for the shot, that he hits in such a way with enough curl and pace that the keeper gets a touch to it, but the touch spills it away. And like, I don't want to relitigate the transfer window, but the behavior in the transfer window from the Sounders is predicated on an idea that you don't want to bring guys in who are going to block the way for these players in your pipeline. And that's all well and good, but if it's just a theory or an idea, there's not any value to that. But when you are giving Osase de Rosario, Snyder Brunel, Reed Baker-Whiting, Cody Baker opportunities, and then they are executing on those opportunities and doing the job and doing it well to the extent that you're playing in a final against Leo Messi and Inter Miami, like, you can understand some of the logic behind those decisions. And, you know, Osase de Rosario is, at this point, much better than I think anyone could have hoped.
I've been, in the last few days, I've been looking back at where he was a year ago. And you and I wrote recaps of all the Defiance players last year, and I haven't actually read the De Rosario one, but I'm pretty sure it was something along the lines of showing some promise, but not quite an MLS level player. And at this point last year, he was only periodically starting for Defiance. He hadn't scored in a while. He was looking maybe a little disinterested at times, frankly. And then something clicked in this offseason. I think it probably started, we asked him today about this, but to me, it probably started to click really. He had that hat trick for Guyana. Who cares if it was against St. Kitts and Nevis or whoever it was against? Just the fact that he saw in international, he had a hat trick in an international game, follows it up with another goal. And that seems to have just kickstarted this whole, and then he spends the offseason doing private trainings with Tino Lopez in Florida. And then he comes into camp this year. He's with the first team. And he's just been on it's like you say, in a way, it's like, well, he's been on this heater that's a year long. But it's not like he's in this amazing finishing form. He is so good at getting into dangerous positions. He's finding himself with 2 or 3 chances, really good chances, every time he gets on the field. It's unreal. I asked Brian, I told him it's like this unprecedented level of unheard of ability to get into dangerous. He's doubling the number of good chances that he's getting than anyone else in the league right now. That's Messi. That's Luis Suarez. These are like elite players at not just finishing, but at finding chances. And he's like doing it at double the rate. Now, is that sustainable? Maybe not. But to even do it for 400 minutes or 500 minutes or whatever it's been, it's pretty remarkable. And it shows me that he understands what he has to do, and that and the more he gets himself into these positions, the more confident he is. Okay, I missed one chance. I got another one coming, and I'll finish that one.
Yeah, and look, I agree with everything you guys are saying, but if anything, I am consistent with my thought process, and the only pushback I would have in terms of potentially, if money was not an issue and time wasn't an issue, and you look at the world of soccer, I think that there is room for a different profile striker in this roster. And as much as, and you and I have had this conversation, Jeremiah, as much as we both like De Rosario, I don't know if I would bet that he's going to be the next.
Yeah, I'm just saying for right now.
No, for right now. No, and that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be a 25 goal scorer or anything like that, but I'm just saying that the tools that he has tell me that he can be an effective player.
100%.
And in some ways, don't get me wrong, if Danny Mostowski was available for this game, I'd probably feel better. But in some ways, Osasi's a more complete player. He does more in
100%.
Possession. He does more in link-up play.
100%.
And he has a physical presence about them that does allow him to do... Danny Mostowski's not going to score that bully goal.
No.
Frankly, I don't know anyone. Maybe Pedro might score that. There's not a lot of players in the Sounders roster that are capable of that.
Or there's that flick that he gives to, I think it's Jesus Ferreira. That's awareness. The way he goes and gets that ball. Danny Mostowski's not doing that, and that's what I mean by profiles.
Sets up the first goal.
Yeah, I don't mean to always crap on Danny, but he's a poacher, right? And poachers are
he's really
pretty
good
limited, right in front of goal. And now, again, he's a guy that's also overperforming his career stats, right?
Yeah.
So where does that really lie? What's the real number? But in terms of Osasi, I do see a lot of great things about the way he plays that target striker position, and it's great. I think it's all praise to the coaching staff, to the talent scouting department, to bring in a guy from Tacoma. I just on Thursdays I do my soccer down here, and John was asking me about how good it is to have Tacoma just feeding these players.
It's unreal.
Because it's Schneider. It's at some point Danny Leyva had a whole bunch of time. Obed, obviously De Rosario. So it does talk about that pipeline and what I would think. You correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremiah, but I think it's one of the biggest imprints or footprints that Garth Lagerway left.
Yes.
Because he was the one who accommodated
and said we need to invest in this.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to get into a whole thing on this, but I just thought it was an interesting observation. Danny Leyva, you brought up Danny Leyva. he just hit 100 senior first team appearances, which is pretty cool. He's 22 years old. In 2019 was the last year that MLS gave out a Rookie of the Year award, which was reserved for players that came out of the draft, I believe. Andre Shinashiki was 22 when he won Rookie of the Year in 2019. And it just illustrates how this league has shifted where, that was only 6 years ago. And we're talking about guys with 100 appearances that are the same age as the guys who were winning Rookie of the Year back then.
I mean, another, young player who just is phenomenal. But I was posting on Blue Sky the other day because I realized that there's the possibility that Obed, depending on if the Sounders make any sort of playoff run, if he continues playing at the rate he's been playing, could hit 10,000 all competitions first team minutes.
He's 20.
He's 20. Only one player has ever played more and MLS minutes is what I will say. He's at 7,119 MLS minutes. The only player to ever play more MLS minutes before turning 21 was Eddie Gavin, who had played 10,000, almost
which is
10,500 minutes.
And obviously a very different league.
A very different era, but
right.
Obed is in such rarefied air.
Right, that there's nobody else.
That I think, with Snyder's burst onto the scene, it's become, there's a new shiny kid from the academy that it's become easy to overlook just how remarkable Obed is and has been, because he's been a mainstay for 3 or 4 years and he just turned 20. It is wild.
I want to actually stay on that a little bit. You mentioned, again, Snyder Brunell. Here, I thought that he did not do anything that was, he didn't score for the first time. Well, I don't know if it's the first time, but he didn't score. But I just thought it was a really, really mature performance from him. He came in the 75th minute, I believe. He replaced Christian Roldan, which we can get into why he replaced Christian Roldan. But he was basically tasked with being a pest, with just sort of being go out there and have a solid, mature veteran type of performance. You don't need to do anything special, but he was so good at that. And then when they went down, where I was really impressed with him is when they went down to 10 men, and he was sort of that front line of defense. No fear. He was the Sounders. The way they defended with 10 men was so good.
What's so good?
They were constantly pushing. They were not going to sit back and just let the Galaxy pump in crosses.
And they almost turned the field into this bottleneck where they were obligated to just push out wide and have to just cross random balls in early, where
not a single dangerous cross and Thomas and whatever
dominating, right? So I think that's a great point about how they defended with 10 men.
To your point of his maturity, I just remembered the moment where, he received the ball with an opportunity to go for a goal, and maybe he does make it 3 first team appearances with a goal, and instead he takes it to the corner and fights off 2 Galaxy defenders.
He could have done a little better because he embellished there.
Well, I was going to say, I actually I appreciated that because he goes down a little easy, but I thought it was kind of a veteran move to be why not try it? Because it's you're at that point, why not try to draw the foul? Because you can burn off another 30, 40 seconds.
Right. Worst case scenario, you give the ball up
in the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's fair. No, I agree. All these are things that I know, Jeremiah, you follow the academy and you follow Tacoma. I do the same, but I do it more towards the guys, right? I talk experienced veteran players every single time after preseasons, and the name Snyder Brunell was always one that was there, and that as I've mentioned a lot of times, my biggest praise to him is that he always seems to be in the right place at the right time. He understands the position. He rarely does something wrong. There is an understanding of where he needs to be, where if you were to pause video, he's not the guy that's getting scolded because he wasn't where he was supposed to be.
He never seems to be in the wrong
He's like, how
place.
brilliantly were you to get there, right? So he is a guy that I'm very high on in his future process. Maybe he won't be Obed, maybe he will, but he's a guy that definitely has a lot of potential.
Well, and I think, we've talked before about how he seems like one of these players who might actually be better at the first team level than he was at the second team level, in part because he's surrounded by different types of talent. But that's also partly because there is no equivalent to the situation they were in on Wednesday. There is no, yes, they have playoffs in MLS Next Pro. They had the Open Cup game against the Timbers. Those are not the same stakes. These were major stakes, and you just don't know what a player is going to do in that situation where he's in the corner. How is he going to handle this? And you just don't know. And the experience, the maturity that he showed on that play was off the charts to me. It was so fun to see a player take that ball into the corner and try to draw a foul like that. That's exactly what you want anyone to do in that situation. And I don't know. I was just every week I feel like every game there's something new about Brunel that sort of jumps out. And I alluded to this before, but Brian Schmetzer went on KJR last night. And I don't know why he did this, but they asked him about
Softy show
because he
needs to give them something.
He got to give him something, and so they asked him about who was going to be playing or whatever, and he's like, well, I did pull someone out earlier than I would have normally pulled them out, and so they asked him who, and he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you, but you can probably figure it out. And then I asked him again today, sort of thinking well, he's just being coy for being. But then he said no. He just said no. I'm not going to tell you. I think at this point I'm almost 99% sure it was Christian. I didn't want to believe it at the time. I was like, oh, maybe he was talking about Paul. No, I'm pretty sure. Christian. As much as I appreciate that I'm showing trust and he hasn't ruled him out. He was doing warm-ups today, but Christian did come off earlier, I feel than any of the other starters. But that is it's a little concerning. I'm not going to lie. The Sounders are really digging into the bag here. They're already going to be missing, I think, 7 notable players for this game. Also Stuart Hawkins, who I'm not trying to diminish him, but he probably wasn't going to play anyway. But 7 players who very likely would have had a role to play in this game otherwise. I would really like to not find out if they can do it without Christian rolled on. I'd rather Christian be out there. But weirdly, I'm not that. I am worried. But I kind of feel like they might be able to figure it out.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Labor Day sale and get 35% off paints and stains August 22nd through September 4th. With prices starting at $31.84, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Yeah, I think they will. I would say a couple more things about the substitutions at least.
Oh, yes.
It was just the fact that I thought he showed, I was concerned at the time, but I thought it showed a lot of trust in his rotations. For him to be 2-0 against the Galaxy, and then he takes out both Rothrock and De La Vega in the 60th, brings in Leyva, brings in Rebecca Whiten, moves Ferreira to that white side and allows Danny to play the 10, and he looked good. He looked
they didn't really miss a step.
No,
maybe not quite as dynamic, but they were still very they're still very good.
So I got to credit Brian for the trust, for the kind of this ethos he's kind of created in this group of players that everybody just seems to believe and understand where they got to be. So it's credit. I think that and we could talk about this because it is what we learned this week. And what we learned this week is that probably the only bad thing that happened in that whole game was the red card to Nuhu.
Yeah.
Nuhu, I didn't think it was as egregious as some people made it sound.
He's talking to Mark Kastner right now.
Oh,
I mean,
I don't know, but whoever it is,
I wasn't posting about it, but I guess that you can say like, oh, he doesn't mean to, whatever. But if you go back and watch that play in full speed, not at replay speed, whether it's intentional or not, like
he comes in hot and late
and endangering another player, that is definitionally the reason he has his both legs up, studs exposed. Going
he is off the ground.
The player's legs are because of how recklessly he goes into that challenge. And I realize that like the way that Nuhu plays full out, everything out there is part of what people love about him, but that's a red card, my man.
I mean, here's what I will say.
I didn't think that the contact was there. I thought that, he obviously goes at the ball. I'll give you this. It's poor form. Like, he didn't need to slide that way. Like, if you slide normal, you
slide it all.
No, or you don't need to slide it all perfect. That is just as good. But I thought that per the rule, I thought it was I don't think it was that clear, and the fact that the call was made that it wasn't a red.
It wasn't I will say it wasn't a foul on the field,
and that's what I have an issue with. That the VAR was so conclusive. I didn't think it was that conclusive to overturn the fact that all of a sudden it was a red card. So whether it was or whether it wasn't, and you can give me your opinion on it, obviously, Jeremiah. But what we learned today was that the team did try to appeal.
Looked into appealing,
went over all the regulations that went to it, but apparently
they didn't feel like they could win.
Yeah.
I will just say I'll sort of split the baby on this one, and my feeling is that it is a red cardable tackle that if they had shown a red card in real time, that I would have had no real issue with it. I don't like the use of VAR on that one because I feel like the referee had a great view of it. He didn't even call it a foul, and the contact was not so egregious as to rise to the level of a clear and obvious error to me. But I also don't have a big issue with it being a red card. It was a dangerous tackle. He comes in late. He comes in high. He comes in hard. It hits it does hit all the red cardable elements of it. I just, again, sort of like the way that the Orlando Miami game went down. I just feel like the way VAR is used is not as consistent as it should be. I'm a VAR defender. I think I just want to, and I think to Brian, Brian alluded to this or said this, is, Peck had a similar tackle on Nuhu earlier in the game that I don't think got called a foul either.
Nope.
And so it was sort of like the referee is calling the game the way he's calling it, and sort of like what I don't like sometimes is that VAR intervenes when it's not consistent with the way the ref seems to want to call the game. But then, of course, the ref could have just said, no, I'm not going to give a red card. But he did, and I can't really blame him. So I don't know. I don't really have a lot of issue. I do. It is a concern. It's very frustrating because Nuhu was having a great game.
He was so,
and I would feel a lot better about his ability to help shut down a Miami attack, which maybe we can get into.
We will.
That is potent. That has some very, very talented players and is going to pose a real challenge. I think that they are not unbeatable. I think it's even, the idea that the Sounders have played Cruz Azul, who was arguably the best team outside of Europe. Twice they played them. They played PSG, which was arguably the best team in the world. They played Atletico Madrid, which is one of the best teams in the world. They played Botafogo, who beat PSG and was the South American champions. The idea that the Sounders might be intimidated by Inter Miami is so laughable that it's like there's no reason at all that they should be intimidated. They're going to be at home. They're going to be in front of 55, 60,000 fans, something like that. And the reality is that Miami has lost like 6 times to MLS teams, not even to, we're not even talking about the 4-0 loss they had to PSG. We're just talking about like normal ass MLS teams. They got thumped by the Vancouver Whitecaps in CONCACAF Champions Cup. So, like, this is not an unbeatable opponent. There's no reason the Sounders should look at them in awe. They should be excited about this opportunity. This is, to me, like a dream match. I mean, this is a dream matchup. Like, it's not about, I can't wait to see Messi. It's like, I can't wait to see the Sounders go up against Messi.
I think in a lot of ways the Sounders match up against them really well. Like, I genuinely am excited to watch Osase de Rosario go to work against those
Falcone
backs. Like, I think presumably Paul Rothrock on that right wing is going to love the amount of space that is behind Jordi Alba.
Yeah.
I feel good about the midfield matchups. Like, I think the defense could hold up, even if it is, whether it's John Bell or Cody Baker or Reed Baker-Whiting at left back. Like, it could be any one of those guys. The trouble is that you just never know when Messi is going to do Messi thing, or like Segovia or whoever. Like,
even Luis Suarez.
Yeah, there are so many guys who can pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah, and we could talk about Inter Miami here in a second. I'm guessing we'll take a break and then come back.
We can do that.
So I'll tell you why I think they match up well, but they don't match up as well as they do against the Galaxy, where going into the game you kind of felt like, man, just
perfect.
This is perfect for the Sounders. I don't think this one is as perfect. We'll talk about why. But I will say that the last thing I wanted to talk about was that Reed Baker-Whiting is clearly the choice.
I feel like that's obvious.
Some people had
also
some questions, and I don't know why. He's the guy. He's the next guy.
He started against Atletico Madrid,
and that's exactly
and he was great against Simeone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't see, like, if he can stand up to Gianni,
yep.
Yeah, Gianni Simeone, I don't see why he shouldn't stand up against these guys.
And that's what I was going to say. I think that game, he was pressed. Like, Reed was, honestly, was like a stress test. That was about as hard as it gets.
Yeah.
He was pulling and pushing, and Simeone's got some explosiveness to his game, and they were going to his side.
And he is not a soft player.
And he's not a soft player, so
his dad wouldn't let him be.
No,
not with that last name. But yeah, what I would say is that Reed also gives you a lot of attacking, obviously contributions that are much better than what Nuhu would give you. So I still wish it was Nuhu. I'm not gonna lie, because I do want that lockdown defender specifically for this game. But if you're gonna force both Rodrigo de Paul, if he plays that same side as he did against Orlando, Ian Frey to need to defend, him and Pedro could really pin them back, and I think that enables the way Inter Miami attack. So we'll talk about that here a little bit later, but I'm still just confident that Reed could do the job as a substitution guy.
Well, I think you make a good point. Let's take a break here. We're going to come back and we'll do a whole segment on Inter Miami. You listen to Nos Ariates.
Thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes Nos Arietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. We've been independent since August of 2023, but need your support to make sure it continues. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible by your continued support. Memberships start as low as $25 a year, which not only helps make podcasts like this one happen, but also gets you access to everything we produce. If you're able to support us at higher levels, starting at $75 a year, you gain access to a host of other perks, most notably entry into our members-only Discord, where the smartest, funniest, and most engaged commenters share their thoughts and ideas. To find out more, just visit sounderatheart.com and click the subscribe button in the top right corner. Thanks for listening.
Nos Arietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDERATHEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code SOUNDERATHEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Welcome back to No Study at This. So we have really, like I said, a dream matchup. And I say that not because, I feel like there's been some discourse over this where people are mad that other fans are excited to see the Sounders play Messi for some reason. And I just want to be really clear. I don't think it's about Sounders fans, other Seattle fans in general. I'm not worried about people showing up in pink. I'm not worried about people coming to pay their respects to Messi and Suarez and whatever else. I just think there's an undeniable reality that when you bring in the star power that Miami brings in, it's going to get people excited about seeing the Sounders play them. It's not about, this is not like when Barcelona comes to town and it's like, oh, I can't wait to see the visiting thing. It's like, this is different. I want to see the Sounders play a cup final against some of the most talented players MLS has ever had. And what an opportunity that is. And to me, this in some ways almost feels like house money. Like the Sounders getting to this point was the bigger deal. To me, was more nerve-wracking and scarier, and like the stakes of the Galaxy game to me were bigger. Because now if the Sounders win, it's great. If they don't win, that's a disappointment, but they're still in Champions Cup. They've already achieved something pretty impressive. Getting to the point where you get to have this whole event is sort of the prize, and yes, I would like to have the Leagues Cup. I'd like to, I wrote a story recently where I detailed how the Sounders are trying to win their ninth major title since coming into MLS. This is their, I believe, 15th Cup final. Wow. Since Adrian Hanauer took over in 2002. They're averaging basically 0.65 finals per year, which is a pretty amazing clip. But I'm like genuinely excited for this matchup, in part because it's going to draw a big crowd. It might not be, it doesn't look like, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if they're going to be able to open up the whole stadium. They've been kind of dragging out, opening up the additional sections, but there's going to be at least 55, 60,000 people there. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere. But let's talk a little bit about Miami specifically. Aside from the obvious, which is they have a bunch of really talented players, what do they do well, Niko?
I think that Inter Miami does a great job at playing in reduced space with very intricate passing. The way they move their triangles across in the attacking third is basically out of instinct, because they do have those connections. If you don't realize that when Alba, Messi, and Luis Suarez connect, it feels like they're on Bluetooth somehow, then I don't know what to tell you. But the way those guys move is a repetitive motion. It is, they understand where the space is going to be, what they're going to do. So it always feels like regardless of the game, they can get back into a game at any moment in time. I said yesterday that Orlando City left the perfect blueprint for the Seattle Sounders on what not to do against Inter Miami. And this is what maybe concerns me a little bit, is that if you don't put down Miami when you have opportunities, because Orlando in the first 45, they could have had 3 goals, and they did not. They spoiled opportunity after opportunity. And then they allow Miami to get back into that game in the second half. And those little moments where Messi, he's a guy that buys his time, right? He's not running every single ball. He knows it. He understands when he needs to turn it on. And if you're unable to use and finish those opportunities that you do get against this defense, I think that's what Inter Miami does well, is that they have the confidence and they have the talent to take over a game in 15 minutes. And that is, to me, the best thing that Inter Miami does.
They really are a horror movie villain. They are. You can't assume that team is dead until the whistle is blown. You've got to cut the head off, burn the body, and bury the parts separately. Like, they just...
That's beautiful. I like that.
Especially, like, Niko, you were mentioning before we started recording, I think that, like, there is just always the possibility that, like, calls are going to go against you, not because there's a grand conspiracy by MLS to make sure that Inter Miami lift the trophy.
We get the shot of Messi picking up the
David
trophy.
Beckham stands in the owner's box looking all handsome. Like, Leo Messi is the greatest and most popular player in the world. In a big stadium, like, referees are going to make calls and you're not going to like them. There's going to be as much stoppage time as there might be necessary to see if something can happen. Like, you're going to get opportunities. You need to make the most of them. Otherwise, you are going to see Messi lift a trophy in your stadium. Like, there's no two ways about it.
Yeah, people should get ready for that. I totally agree. That's something that I did want to make sure that people know, that there might be one or two calls that do go in Miami's ways. And look, Sergio Busquets is not just the most intelligent guy on the ball. He is looking at everything off the ball. And it might not be that he's making a huge run, but when it comes to the refereeing, he's chirping, he's talking. When it comes to the dark tactics, Argentines are great at it, but when you have experienced guys like Alba and Busquets and Mascherano, expect some Mascherano antics all over this game. You got to be ready for that. And sometimes that's off football, and you got to be ready for it, because although it's off the pitch, it makes a difference in the pitch. So when it comes to this team that, as we just mentioned, you cannot give them a lifeline, right? Orlando City dominated that game. There's a red card that, soft or not, it's double yellow. He gets sent off. And right after that, 77, 88, 90, 3 goals in just a moment's notice, right? So you cannot allow those things to happen. Some of the mistakes or some of the things that didn't go perfect against LA Galaxy, you can't do that against Inter Miami. And so it's a great point that you obviously...
Spanish football is the avant-garde of dark arts football, mind games, and you've got Spanish players and players who came through Barcelona, and almost nobody is doing it crazier than Barcelona. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot that is not just kicking the ball to contend with.
Yeah, I would just say also that like you said, the opportunities are good. We know there's going to be chances. And I think what the Sounders probably can't afford to do is have a situation like you said, like against the Galaxy, where they have 2-3 really golden chances that they don't put away. But I don't know. I like the chances that I think Sounders are going to create chances. That I'm not worried about. And I think in that way, the teams that they've struggled with this year are teams that don't want to play, teams that just want to sit back and be sort of passive defending and say, come attack us. And I don't think they don't have to worry about that with Miami. And I think the Sounders have really, I don't think they've faced an offense that overwhelmed them really yet, other than maybe PSG, who was able to move the ball around really effectively. But even in the PSG game, I think the Sounders were able to show some of their identity, were able to have moments where there was openings, and they weren't clinical. And then they can't afford to do that against, I mean, they couldn't afford to do it obviously against PSG. They probably can't afford to do it against Miami either.
Yeah, and a lot of it we've talked about already, or some of it. But the other reason why I don't think that the matchup is as easy as what they saw against the Galaxy, as I was mentioning, the Sounders, there have been times when a good overlapping fullback can really get into trouble. When Alex, he's a guy that sometimes, because he wants to be the guy that's widest on that side, he gets very high. When there's a good overlapping fullback, there has been times where they get caught up, right? And Alba is gonna be looking for that. If you're too high, the line of confrontation that we talked about with Brian today, yes, Luis Suarez is not gonna burn you speed-wise, but maybe a guy like Jordi Alba can get behind you. Maybe if you're able to get Messi in space, he's still got a little bit of acceleration. So those are the moments that I think that Inter Miami can create some troubles. I also think that Rodrigo De Paul gives them a little bit more control. He gives them balance that they didn't have before. He is a guy that has some duality to his game. He also kind of, I don't know if this is going to be the case, but I was very surprised that Segovia was off the bench. And I think that Rodrigo gives Mascherano that possibility. I don't know if Balcazar is going to start again, because he just seems like he's a younger guy. But, you know, whoever he brings off the bench, he could be a guy that's a spark plug enough. So how Mascherano handles that lineup is also interesting to me, because although we've talked about Brian Spencer has gotten better in his substitution patterns and things, there have been moments where coaches make adjustments throughout the game and they bring in players to expose things that they're seeing. That's another thing that I don't think the Galaxy had that Miami has.
Yeah, and I guess on that token, I will say if there's a player that is maybe a wild card in this one for the Sounders, Georgie Manungu feels like he could maybe have some, really create some danger. If they need a goal late, he's not going to start the game, but if their Sounders are chasing a goal later in this one, I would not be at all surprised to see Georgie Manungu get on the field, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him creating some chaos. And, that's what I really like about this team right now, is that they are like, there's no dead weight. There's no dead weight on this roster right now. Everyone has had a role to play. Everyone has contributed. Everyone is showing that they belong, that when they're called on, that they can perform, and that they can play. They can keep the level high. That it's not like, that's one of the things that Brian said today, is that what's been so amazing about, or so he's been most impressed by with this roster, is that he can plug and play and not feel like we have to change our game plan. And that's what gives me confidence about Reed stepping in for Nuhu. That's what gives me confidence about Osaze Rosario starting for Danny Musovski. That's what gives me confidence about Ferreira being in place of Rusnak, and just kind of go down the list. And this would be a great story. I mean, it does sort of, like I said earlier in the show, it does feel like the Sounders are sort of playing with house money right now, because they have all, like, getting to this point was such a huge achievement, I think.
And I totally agree. I think that's a big part of this game. And I saw it. I kind of felt it in Brian's demeanor today. There is no pressure on him. There is no weight. It's all about Messi, and it's all about him and the Avengers coming to town, right? I mean, that's what it is. They're basically the ones that everyone's expecting to get a second title. They've been there, done that.
Right.
So it is house money. And yet, although, like I said, I think that this game is going to be a full 90 minutes. It's going to be...
Can't help it.
You can't help it. It's going to be 90 minutes where you're going to have to be on the whole time. I really like Bright for Miami, and I think he gives them some defensive presence there at midfield that maybe Seattle hasn't really had over the last couple of games. But one of the good things that Seattle can do, look, Ustari, he might be 40. I have no idea how he's the starting keeper for Inter Miami. I really don't understand it.
He's the starting keeper because the guys behind him aren't any better.
But they just shipped out. Right. They sent him to freaking Charlotte. But what I'm saying here
Calendar.
is that... Calendar, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Calendar.
Celentano's the guy who just got called into the national team.
Calendar. And, but he has a hard time stopping mid-range shots. Pedro is going to have a field day trying to pick where he's going to put the ball. I also think that, as you mentioned, there are going to be spaces behind the fullback, so the flanks are going to be wide open. I think this is a big Jesus Ferreira game, which he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to just have a lot of
A cerebral player like that, especially, I think, is set up for this
I think he's going to have a lot of space to work with the ball. He's not going to be getting hit. I think that's when Ferreira a lot of times kind of loses a little bit of that. And when he has that presence on, and look, I got to tell you right now, neither of the defenders are good on markup one-on-one. So I think that Ferreira is going to have a lot of space to work with. So for me, I don't want to get too overly confident here, but I really do think that Seattle can win this 3-1, or that it's going to be an open game. To me, it's no question.
Multiple goals in this game, yeah.
But I feel like Seattle has all the tools to exploit this Inter Miami defense, and they have the tools to limit the Messis, the Busquets. Look, Yammer wasn't there at 200 caps. We didn't mention
I know
that.
it's been weird. That it doesn't seem like Brian
wants to talk about it.
I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's weird. But whatever. This guy has been outstanding since he got here. Multiple times final best defender of the year, but he is playing at a fantastic rate. I think in his last 2 games against the LA Galaxy,
Yammer's been very good.
He's been great.
These guys will be waking up in the middle of the night feeling like he's behind them because he's been a nightmare for these players. He's been so good anticipating, tracking back, allowing Jackson Reagan to just get forward. He gives Jackson Reagan this safety blanket to beat Jackson Reagan. So for me, Yammer's going to be very important in this game. So I will take the best of the Sounders against the best of Inter Miami all day, every day. Mind you, that the caveat of be ready for the Messi magic.
Right.
But other than that,
there is no there's on some level there's no correcting.
Exactly.
There's no accounting for Messi. If Messi just goes Super Saiyan.
Yep. It's over, right? So that's what it is. But in terms of player to player, the way they set up, the way they're built, I like Seattle's chances, no doubt.
Yeah, there's always the possibility that Messi decides this is the World Cup final again and does Messi stuff. But I think the Sounders match up well throughout the field. I think especially if it's Reed on the left instead of Nuhu, like the Reed-Pedro combo on one side and Alex-Paul on the other, you have wings that both players are going to do the work in both directions at a high level. Like, it's going to be a shootout. I don't think I've ever been as confident of a Sounders team as I am of this one in a shootout.
I know. It's very weird.
It is
very, very weird.
It's wild to be without 2 of 3 designated players, several of your top players, and still be like, oh, yeah, if it's a shootout, I back the Sounders. Like,
and what's funny is that it's not that I'm more confident. I don't even know if I would be more confident with Jordan and Albert. It's just that I'm the same, almost like the same level of confident. Yeah. I do. The Sounders are a better team when Albert and Jordan are on the field, but the way they're playing right now, and this has sort of been the theme for 2 months, it's like it doesn't matter. Like whoever is on the field is like picking up the confidence, is like playing with the same sort of. No, I got this. And that's what's amazing to see.
I would be more confident with Jordan on. As much as Osas has said all the right things today, and he seems to really not have any pressure, that is not a young player, but an inexperienced player in a huge stage with a full stadium, with all the stakes. I hope he plays well. I do too.
I think that's the one.
Jordan, I feel like,
yeah, you're right.
We're way good at this.
No, you're right.
But I'm a little bit apprehensive about how he handles it.
I mean, this is going to be a lot of these guys have never played in front of well, not a lot. I guess most of them played in the Club World Cup. Osase did not. Snyder did not. But this is, and I do think this is a team. This is a game that is uniquely set up for. Like, this is what this has all been building towards in some way. It seems funny to be talking about this where we've got 2 months left of the season to play, potentially more than that, like if they're good, if they make a run in the playoffs. But this has been a fun tournament. And I said this on Blue Sky. I'll just say it again. You can obviously have both, so I don't want to set up a false dichotomy, but this moment is doing as much to raise the profile of the Sounders and to sort of get the energy going in outside of the team, that this is the best thing you could do. This is the best way to get people excited. Sure, bring in some signings, blah, blah, blah. You could do that too. But if you want, this is how you've branded yourself. This is what you have made your name on. This is what it's all about. And I think it's fun. It's fun.
I think it's incredibly fun. I think that beyond that, again, I as someone who grew up watching soccer in leagues that have been, a lot older for playing many more years than hundreds of years more than MLS. International competition elevates the level of your league no matter what. And that is something that happens constantly. So this is international competition for MLS, playing against Liga MX like this. Outside of, yes, you got CONCACAF League and all of these things. You got CONCACAF Cup, you got all these other things. But these types of tournaments, you're right. I feel like you got to make the best of them. And it gives you the best chance, the best opportunity to get silverware. And that's what, as you said, the Sounders have built their brand on, is we win championships. And this is an opportunity where they might have a good opportunity to do it.
Yep. Anything you want to close with, Tim?
Not in particular. I'm just, this game is gonna give me a real bad tummy ache, but I am just unbelievably excited. The Galaxy game gave me a horrible stomach ache.
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever been more nervous. That's not true. That was as nervous as I've felt at towards the tail end of a game, where you're just like, do not give up a penalty. Do not, because that was really the only thing I felt like it could go wrong, was and that was, the nerves were roaring.
Yeah, the red card was plenty of fuel to give the Galaxy, but no, I think I'm excited to see this team play on this stage, to have this sort of opportunity. Could all go wrong. That's always a possibility, but I'm excited to see players step up and take advantage of the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good place to end this. We might even have yet another podcast that comes out before the game. But for now, I'm Jeremiah Sheehan. Oh, did you want to say something, Niko?
I just wanted to close with this, and I don't do this a lot, but and then you probably don't care about it, Jeremiah.
Oh, I care. I'm sure if it's important to you, Niko, I care.
Well, I just there was in. I won't be too long, but there was a comment in our podcast about how we were frustrated about signings that I just thought was just way wrong onto what we're doing. It was our CW dog that basically made it sound as if we were not elevating or highlighting this young talent of the Sounders, their academy, everything. And although both you and I know where we stand, I wanted to let it be known that as I've said, everybody's entitled to their opinion and their comments, and I love it. I love people engaging, but there is literally no outlet, no two reporters or journalists, whatever you want to call me. Obviously, you're the journalist here, but
you're a journalist. Don't worry.
It does not matter. There's not been two guys that have been more eminent about highlighting what the Sounders have done well, what Craig Waibel has done well to put together this talent. Everybody who was laughing about the Craig Waibel's cooking, you might not like the taste. Those are the guys that you should be getting mad at. Those are the people that were doubting this whole thing. We knew where we stood as the Sounders, right? Because we're here, we see it, we provide you that context. But although we're frustrated, to elevate that level, that's all we're saying was take it to the next level. We were in no way, shape, or form ever doubting what Craig Waibel had done, or that the pillars that have made the Sounders brand what it is, as we just mentioned right now, has been that academy level, has been that sustainable talent. So I just want to respond to you, RC Dog, or whatever it was. I appreciate the comment, but it was completely off what the reality is.
Yeah, I'll just close on that. I'll just say the Sounders can do two things. they can elevate internal players. They can bring up academy guys. They can go through the Defiance. And they can bring in players from outside the organization. All we're saying is that there is money effectively being left on the table by not bringing in outside talent. That doesn't mean that what they have here is bad. It just means that they can be better. And we're going to continue to hold them to account. We will continue to say, you can be better. And honestly, in a honest moment, Craig Weibel will 100% agree with that. I don't think that anyone in the organization is happy to just say this is good enough. And we shouldn't either.
Correct.
We don't have to be 100%. We can be happy with their successes and we can call out their failures and we can do them at the same time.
If I can add just one additional thing, I think it's funny to simultaneously get this sort of criticism that you guys are too harsh, and also have people saying that
we're in the
Sounder
pocket.
at Heart is in the pocket and too rah-rah.
Well, I guess that means we're doing our job, right?
But it is, the role and responsibility of an independent outlet to hold the organization's feet to the fire anytime that it is appropriate. And on the topic of no signings, I think I've been a fairly vocal advocate of some of the reasons for why they would not have. Not that I didn't think that they should have.
Right.
I think it is clear that people are misinterpreting the case that you guys have made, which is that the Seattle Sounders were in a position to build from a position of strength, and they chose not to. They could have gotten stronger. Maybe that diminishes the pathway to minutes for some other players, but they had the opportunity to improve the squad right now, and they decided that right now is not the time to do that. Maybe in the long run that turns out to be a good decision, but that is still the case that they could have made the team better and they did not.
Yep. That's a good place to end it. Signing off for Niko Moreno, who you can also listen to on Soccer Down Here, on Poolsel Sports, on Lobbing Scorchers, as well as Sounder at Heart's Tim Foss, who you will be probably hearing from and reading even more of going forward. I am Jeremiah Shan. This is No Sadietas, part of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, and we'll get you next time.
Let's go f***ing Sounders.
This Labor Day at Lowe's, shop member-only doorbuster deals for a limited time. Save $50 on an Ego string trimmer, now $169. Plus, get 50% off select Holland pavers. Not a rewards member? Sign up for free today. But hurry, Labor Day doorbuster deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 9/1 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.